Okay, so for assignment 2 in week 3, where we're working with brushes and we've taken our brushes for a test drive, I thought it'd be interesting if we continue on with our sci-fi theme to make a pod or some kind of, alien pod or seed or, or a person. I mean, it's up to you, environment. Something where you can practice with these brushes. Um, I've got a photograph of some squash here. I mean, you might want to, if you go with the pod thing like I'm doing here, you might want to, and you don't have a camera, you might want to Google image search, plant forms, pods, seeds, things like that. And I have to look at this. I think, I think I kind of like it better like this. It's a little bit more interesting to me compositionally. Now, brushes. Remember, you've appended a number of different kinds of brushes on here. And what we want to do is we want to play with some of the blend modes. Now, if you go to Wikipedia even, and you look up blend modes, they have a real nice description of what it does mathematically: dissolve, multiply, screen, overlay. Take a look at that. What I like to play with is the difference and exclusion, and also the multiply. Okay, so it's important not to have black in the foreground color. I like picking colors out of my composition. So I could pick I don't know, a color that I might like, maybe something like that. Okay, and I go to my brush. Now the first thing I do is I duplicate my background layer so that if I make a mistake, I can go back and retrace my steps and start over. Now, what I want to do on this particular composition, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want to do? Remember, you have multiple undos as well. I have to pick a brush, and I like these grainy brushes. And what I'm using is difference at opacity 41%. And what I'm trying to do is darken some of this background. So let me play with this because I want to isolate this pod a little bit. And you can just play around at first if you want. Play and see what happens with the different brushes. And just totally nuke that that layer that you've created on there, and just to see what what the different brushes and things look like. These things take time, right? There is no way to get away from that. If you're going to do a good job, like I don't like any of that. I'm going to completely trash that, and I'm going to duplicate my background layer and start over. I've got to find a brush that I like, so let me do that. Let me pause it, and I'll find a brush I like and think about what I want to do. So my advice is to go slowly. I'm just darkening this. I'm using difference. I up my opacity because I was wanting to very carefully go in and darken this background so that these pod forms kind of come out. I don't know if I'm wild about these green. You can see that my brush is, you have multiple undos. You can play with your different brushes and see what they do, how close you can get, and how precise you can get to a form. So it's going to be some playing around and trying to figure out just exactly what it is that you might want from this this exercise. Remember, I have to keep in mind I want to create a platform here. Let me get another brush. Again, I selected kind of a purplish blue here, and I've got color burn on there, and I'm just trying to go in and again kind of play with making this form stand out. Now the question is, how am I going to make this pod look different than a squash? So let's think about what we can do there. Well, you can see the lag time on making some of these. I'm isolating, I'm editing, I'm painting, and that's what this week's about. It's about painting with these brushes. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm using my magic wand to select this light area so that I can just paint within that selection. That's a really important note, that you can isolate areas and just do effects on them. Okay, now I've got that selected. I'm gonna duplicate that layer so that I have that there. And you know, we could look at filters and things. I don't think I want to get into filters right now. We might want to hold off on that. But I do want to hide that selection, Control H. And then I want to go over to my brushes, and let me look through my brushes and see if I can find something that's cool to kind of emboss. First I have to select my brush, right? Not emboss, but to stamp. There were some interesting, I was kind of interested in these circles, so let me play with that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I selected I made my brush big, I've got different selected, and I just want to go in there and maybe make this look a little bit kind of funky and old, right? Now, I can change the opacity of that layer if I don't want that to be so heavy-handed, right? I'm using my brush to add some textures to this thing. I don't know, it still doesn't look alien enough to me. Let me see if I can find a different kind of a brush. Now, I'm working on just an empty layer here right now. I've got one of these faux finish brushes, and it might let me go in and put some different kinds of textures in there. Now, remember, too, that I've got this thing selected, right? So that I'm only working within my selection, and I might want to just make that top one a little brighter and leave the bottom one a little bit darker. What would happen if I, changed that, swap my colors? That would give me something more like that, right? What about healing brush? Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the last thing I want to do, you can see I deleted this layer. There's a lot of push and pull. I don't like that layer. I didn't like what was happening there. I'm not sure what's happening there. I could delete those too. I went down to this layer and I selected my squash again, and I found this texture, and I want to try it out just with white in the foreground color there. And I kind of like the effect of it being lit up there. And I think my selection's not too good there. I think I might go with that. Now, this is what I want to do for presentation. I want to have a before and after. So I am going to, first I'm going to save this, right? And then I'm going to extend the canvas out. So let's do an image canvas size. Make sure that, let's put white in the background. Select our move tool. Do image canvas size. Let's double it over this way to at least 900, maybe 1,000, so we have some breathing room. Okay. And then let's get the original image. Now I think this is really helpful. All it is, I extended the canvas and then I went and got my background, my original background layer, and I copied it and I pasted it over here. I think this is helpful because I can see now I have a little more work to do. I might want to go in with my brush and just go up and get like a standard, maybe a soft brush, and go in at 100% opacity. I think this needs to be pushed a little bit more to make it really sing and look different. Like I don't like the way, for example, this thing came out. I think it's a little bit too cut out looking. So let me darken that a little bit. You can see here that I selected this area under here because I just felt it was too obtrusive. I could try desaturating it a little, maybe, if I want that other piece to stand out. And then I think I'm going to go in with my healing brush and my blend tool and try to get this thing so it looks integrated in there. Let me do that real quick. Now I'm using one more tool here. These are your photo tools. This is your dodge, or I'm sorry, this is your dodge and your burn tool, and I'm just burning that in. I want it to kind of go into the background a little bit more, right? And you can see if you play with that, you've got shadows, you've got midtones that you can darken, you've even got highlights that you can darken, and you can start playing with your values. So you can see before, after, darkening using the brushes, textures. Do your best to get a good result here.